Hey everyone, welcome to the Crystal Rose Love channel. So I got a request from a subscriber who wanted to know what happens when you find or you think you found Mr. Right and then the person changes or the relationship changes and you believe that perhaps what you thought was Mr. Right wasn't really Mr. Right, or perhaps you thought it was Miss Right and she really isn't Miss Right for whatever reason, whatever thing happened in the relationship down the road. So that's what we're going to address today.
In this situation, I think a couple of things are happening. You know, every relationship goes through that honeymoon phase where everybody puts on their best face, you know, and they wear the beautiful me mask around and I love you so much, and you know, they're just trying to make the person happy. But after a while, you know, overfamiliarity builds up and you get to the point where it's like, I have you now, so I can just let the real me hang out. Really, this can be avoided pretty simply, actually. You got to pay attention. And that's all what it boils down to. In the beginning, pay attention. Don't just pay attention to them, but pay attention to how they react to the people around them. For example, if you're with a man and he doesn't respect his mom, doesn't show his mom any respect, you don't have a shot in the world of getting any respect from that man. Same thing with a woman. If she doesn't respect her parents or her mother or her dad, you know, you're not going to get any respect, dude. It doesn't matter who you are or what you have or what you think you have. You know, it's just something in her personality. That's just how she is, or that's just how he is. I understand that there are exceptions to the rule. You know, in some situations you have people where their upbringing just wasn't right. You know, the parents were just terrible parents, so they don't respect them. But I'm talking about situations where they genuinely have good parents, but they just give them no respect whatsoever. Another thing you kind of want to think about is the fact that sometimes we get into relationships and we don't ask the questions that need to be asked. Simple stuff like, how many relationships have you been in? Why did they fail? You know, these are simple things. I think sometimes we feel like we don't want to pry, you know, or we're being nosy, but in the end, this is your future you're dealing with, so you need to ask these questions. Because, for example, if ladies, you meet this guy and you ask him how many relationships he's been in, and he say, oh, you know, he starts counting on his fingers and pull up his toes, he's counting on his toes. You know, he gets to about 30 and it's like, well, you know, you're only 23, why you been in 30 relationships? You know, and did you break up with all these women? Eventually, you kind of get to the point where, okay, this dude has been in 23 relationships in the past 4 years. None of them have lasted. There's no way in all of God's green earth that all of these women were crazy. Eventually, you got to get to the point where you realize maybe he's a little off. You know, there's something wrong with this guy. Same thing with the ladies. Girl been in 10 different relationships in the past 2 years. Dog, it's not hard to figure out that there's something wrong with her. You know, I think, like I said, I think it's a matter of we don't pay attention. You know, we don't pay attention to how they interact with other people. We don't pay attention to how they interact just in general.
A lot of people are infatuated with the person and we don't really want to see the truth. We don't really want to even know that there could be things that will cloud how we see that person, because we want to paint them in our head a certain way. I think a lot of us, when we enter into relationships, we are infatuated with the other person, and really what I mean by that is that we're just so head over heels about being attracted to them, and we sort of have in our mind an idea of what we believe them to be, as opposed to really investigating and finding out, okay, is this person actually someone that I want to be with, let's say long term? And so it's just really a matter of taking off your infatuation goggles and really getting to know them, not just being so head over heels, but really getting to know them. And you know, they say like that when you first get together with the person, you're sort of in a honeymoon stage, because really after the honeymoon stage, that's when you really find out if the relationship has any viability. The honeymoon phase is extremely fun. It's just when you get past the honeymoon phase, that's when you're going to find out, okay, I'm getting to know this person really well. I'm seeing their habits. I'm seeing how they treat me. I'm seeing how I react to them. Is this gonna work?
You know, we went through that. We definitely went through it. You know, I tend to be a straightforward kind of person, and what I mean by that is, when I want something, I want that, I go get it, and I'm done with it. I don't ask any questions. This is what I want, I'm going to get.
Right.
Whereas she's the complete opposite from me. Like, if she wants to know the answer to a question, she wants all the details around the answer to the question. And I feel like if the answer is no, just tell me no. I don't care how you really got to know.
I'm very curious. I like to know a lot of background details, and that's just a part of my personality, and that's where we conflicted, and it did get under our skin quite a bit.
On both ends,
it got very annoying, and it was just a matter of confronting that issue. I mean, whatever the issue that may be between you and your partner, it's not a matter of just ignoring it and assuming it'll go away. In fact, if you ignore it, chances are it's just going to get blown out of proportion to the point where you just be like, well, I don't want to be bothered with you anymore. So it's just a matter of tackling the issue head on, sitting down with them, and hopefully they're willing to be receptive to what you have to say, and maybe they're aware of it already and say, look, there's this issue that's bothering me, and it may be bothering you too. Let's talk about it, because, you know, I really do think our relationship will be better after we confront this issue.
We've had quite a few of those conversations, and the hard part isn't necessarily the conversation. The hard part is understanding that, you know, getting out of yourself and thinking about the fact that, okay, now they're going to work on it. That's the big thing about it, is work. A lot of times we ask a person to do something, we expect them to be done with it right there. You know, it's like, I want you to grow your hair to shoulder length, and I want it to be done by tomorrow. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know, you have to actually do some work, and you got to be patient with the person, because it's hard to change when you've had 20 years worth of habits that you've built up. You know, and that's what's happening in a lot of situations. People have built up these habits over time, and because you're now over familiar with this person, you start to notice these little things. You know, and it's like, okay, now when it's time for you to work on it and fix it, I want it to be done right now. I don't see what the problem is, because it's not that big a deal. But in reality, it really is a big deal, because they've been doing this their whole lives, or for however long. You know, you just really have to be understanding.
And they have to be willing to make that change. I mean, and the thing is, like, it's a tough call with how you address it, because after you talk about it, you know, you don't want to constantly remind them, oh, you're doing it again, oh, you're doing it again. It gets annoying. You don't want to be like a nagging person about whatever their habit is that they're trying to break. But it's just really a matter of just, you know, reminding them, like, you're still doing X, Y, Z. You know, are you making an effort to change? And if they're saying, you know what, thanks, I really forgot, I'm going to work on it, I'm really trying, that's one thing. But if they say, look, like, I'm not really trying to change or whatever, you have your answer as to whether or not they're actually making any changes whatsoever. One of the things that we definitely recommend is to not just throw the whole relationship out just because there's certain issues that may arise between you two. If, for example, the person has a certain character trait or a certain personality trait that really bothers you, you should address it first and really try to make, if you really like this person, you really want the relationship to work, let the person know, this is something that's bothering me. And if the person is receptive to making the adjustments, if it's a reasonable adjustment, then be patient. Be patient with them changing. It does, as Kwan said, doesn't happen overnight. If over time you notice that it's really bothering you and there's really no changes happening, I can't give a deadline on that. I can't say after 6 months if they don't change throughout the relationship. I'm not going to say that. It really is a call that you have to make, and that's something that you have to decide, really think about, when is it time for me to say this is not working. But as I said already, give it a chance. Have those conversations. If the person is receptive, be patient and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and keep in mind, relationships take work.
Yeah.
You know, I think people get a little disillusioned. They see this on TV. Oh, they're so perfect. Look at Big and Carrie. They're so perfect together. Reality is, none of us are Big and Carrie. You know, they all take work.
Yeah.
It did sound kind of weird.
Yeah, it did. But
it's okay. They take work. That's all I'm trying to say. They take work. It's never going to be a television show. It's never going to be a Disney princess movie. You know, it just doesn't work that way. You have to take.
You want it to be like that sometimes. I mean, you see all those romantic comedies, and it's just this perfect love story, and you're like, oh, that's how I see my relationship being. And then you get into a relationship, and you're like, you know what? You're not like how I thought it would be, so let
me throw you out and get my Prince Charming. I'm sorry, you're just not going to turn a frog into a prince. It's not going to happen. One thing that was specifically asked about from the subscriber is about, sometimes you're in a relationship and the other person can be kind of sarcastic after a while when they never were like that before. I'll admit that's something I have a problem with, just because that's just me. I have a smart mouth. And it's one of those things where you have to talk to the person and they have to consciously work to change it. A lot of times it derives once again from the whole theory of overfamiliarity breeds contempt. You get to know this person so well, you know, and all the intricacies, and you get to the point where it's like, okay, you got this one thing that nags at you about this person, and they do it over and over and over and over again. And you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I'm going to start biting into you every time you do that, and maybe you'll learn to change. But in reality, that's the total opposite of what you're supposed to do. I had to learn that the hard way. And she gently corrected me on it, like, okay, that hurts, don't do that. And that, me being me, I didn't know it hurt, because in my family, we go back and forth all the time. That's just how we are.
Yeah.
I'll say something about you, you say something about me, you know. That's just what we do, and we laugh at the end of it. But everyone doesn't work that way, you know. You gotta keep in mind, you get familiar with the person to the point where you've been with them for a year or two. You know everything about them, you know all the things that click and all the things that don't quite click with you. You gotta address those things gently. You know, you ever heard the phrase, a soft word turns away wrath? That's especially true in relationships. When it's time to address these issues that you're having a problem with, you gotta have a soft tongue. You gotta be gentle and talk to the person in a way that they deserve to be spoken to.
Yeah.
You know, you don't only want to speak to you in a way that's just harsh and cruel. So come correct when it's time to address these issues in your relationship, and your relationship will last a lot longer, and it'll be a lot easier to fix the problems.
It takes two to really make the relationship work. It's good to look inside yourself, see if you're doing anything that could potentially be contributing issues in the relationship, and as well as bringing to the other person what you believe their issues are, and you both can work them out together and figure it out and see where you go from there, because it could be those very issues that could make you incompatible, or it could be those very issues that hopefully can be worked out and you guys can move forward and move beyond those issues, because as Kwan said, every couple has to work through something. There's no couple that exists that doesn't have an argument or some type of bicker about something.
And if they tell you that they are, they're lying.
And I'm sure you guys have seen on TV and in real life people who just seem to have the most perfect relationship. So, you know, you see them in real life and they're just telling you, oh my gosh, you have the most perfect relationship, and oh my gosh, and they go on. And that's great. That's, you know, really great. That's how that's how they present themselves. But you better believe that there are things that they had to work through as well, because there's really no perfect relationship. There just isn't.
Except our relationship.
Yeah.
It's always perfect.
It's always perfect, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this video, guys. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and favorite this video. More videos coming up soon. Like I said, if you guys have any videos in mind that you want us to do, feel free to message her or comment at the bottom and let us know what you want us to do videos on, and we'll try our best to get right to them. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.